Be very intentional in your thought life.
Even in the way you think about your spouse. Sometimes we just think about our spouse the wrong way. One of the greatest adversaries you have to your intimate relationship is just exhaustion. Make sure in your schedule, in your life, in your day-to-day, that you are making time for this pursuit, which is so important.
God ordained this relationship for marriage and only for marriage. Mm-hmm. When we nurture that, it's a wonderful thing. Your home, it matters. You're there to make a difference.
Hello. Welcome, Home Matters Podcast 141.
Welcome. We're glad you joined us today at Home Matters because your home matters, right? And with that, again, this is, one of our subjects that we try to cover pretty often. We've committed to trying to hit this subject because we think it's so important and so silent.
That's right. We use this word a lot, intentional. Mm-hmm. So if you've heard us speak anywhere at any time, you've probably heard us use that word. But we're really applying that to romance and to intimacy today. The need to be intentional. Yeah. Is that okay?
And that's the subject I'm talking about that we try to cover. We've committed, we've said this, I don't know if you've heard us before, but we've committed to about every three podcasts, we try to hit this subject of romance and intimacy because we think it's just something that's kind of left unsaid and undone, especially sometime in church or Christian circles. And again, seeing it God's way is, we think, so important.
It is so important. God speaks to it. So I think we as a church, as a body, as a ministry, that we should speak to it as well. And I just ask this question, starting off, because talking about romance and intimacy, I think sometimes that we have this idea that romance and intimacy are not really romantic if it's planned. You know what I'm saying? I think there's this idea that romance is just kind of, it just happens.
It's just there.
Yeah, or it's just the idea that it's not really romantic if you had to plan for it. You understand what I'm saying? You're kind of looking at me funny.
Yeah, I think that the talk today, I think what you're getting at is I'm the spontaneous guy. I'm more so probably in this relationship as husband and wife. I'm more the guy that's leaned on spontaneity. I think so. Yeah, I'm the guy that's more spontaneous. And again, I'm not as good as an organizer or planner. I'm not as good at that as you are. So, again, you're saying that that we carry that mindset, and I get it because I'm the one that's saying I'm the spontaneous guy. Mm-hmm. But I do also recognize the value, especially in marriage, of us being very intentional about our intimate relationship.
Yeah, that's the point, that I think for us to maintain the right level of intimacy and to have romance a part of our relationship, that we have to be intentional about some things. Right. Like if the romance is missing, then it's not necessarily missing just because we fell out of love, or I'm just saying that those things have to be planned for. But I feel like sometimes the whole word romance is just expected to be something that just kind of happens. It's organic. It's just natural. Well, there's not a lot of effort
it's
put
really
in.
Kind of way, people have looked at marriage, period, I think. You just put them together, young man and young woman, just throw them in the sack together and everything will happen. But again, that's not true. We know that. Yeah, and most of the listeners out there would understand that. They may have tried it that way, but they've realized, boy, they've got some major areas where they need help. So what we're saying is with that, again, some things just don't happen organically. Some things are not just spontaneous. Now, again, are we saying there's not room for that? Surely not. We're saying there's always room for spontaneity. Right. That does seem to be the times where you look back and say, man, I'm glad we had that time or those moments. I'm glad that happened here or there. So again, spontaneity, we're not in any way against that.
Never.
What we're saying, I think,
you can be spontaneous today. That would be great.
Yeah, and again, I think you're leading thought on this. I think what you're saying is that out of spontaneity, it is that much sweeter when we have some effort or some intentionality about feeding the romance, feeding the intimate relationship.
I think that's good.
Okay. Then carry us on.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's just, something I've thought of that maybe it's not even true. But I do think that there are some people out there that just think if I have to work at it too much, then why am I having to work at it? That I shouldn't have to work. In fact, I'm not just pulling that out of the air. I've heard people say that before.
But doesn't that contradict life, period?
Well,
if you're gonna get a harvest, you're gonna sow seed, right?
Absolutely.
And that's
biblical truth.
Yeah,
right?
That's what you're saying there. Is again, why would we ever think? I mean, every other area we specialize in certain areas, our occupations,
right.
And again,
we put the effort in.
I think the light just come on. I think we do put so much effort into so many spaces and areas of life, and we don't do that. We're not intentional about this relationship and the romance and the intimate.
You getting it. That's what I'm saying.
The intimate part of this relationship.
Yeah, I just feel like
because we're not intentional, we never enjoy the fruits of spontaneity. The light came on.
Yes. And, I'm just saying, I just hear and see too many couples that think if I have to work at this so hard, then why? Because, we're married.
Is that ever in comparison, though?
What do you mean?
I mean, most couples, they don't get married unless there's been romance.
Exactly. So I don't know why people believe that lie after the fact. Because it's like you said, we put the effort in, we put the time in, we put the energy in to get the bonus at work or to get the promotion, or we put the work in to have kids, or school degree, exactly. But then when it comes to our romance and our intimacy, we just feel like just because we're married and because we fell in love one day, how many years ago, that's just going to keep producing through our relationship without us putting any effort in.
But it didn't produce before.
Exactly. I'm just saying it's a lie. I feel like many couples
there's so
believe.
much energy and time put into, the relationship, usually before the I do's.
Yeah.
It's almost like when, they get married or say the I do's, it's almost like everything's robbing them or stealing time and energy now.
Absolutely.
To something that you used to take all of your time and energy for.
Yeah.
I remember when we were dating, I'd do without sleep. I mean, I would do without food. I would do without any of that, to make sure that I was going to get some time with you. And I think that still today, there has to be that same energy and effort.
That's right. Absolutely.
To nurture our relationship and our romance. And again, I think that's very true about marriage, period. I've always said, you always you can measure your passions by your pursuits. In other words, I can watch what you pursue, what you spend on, what you put energy, time into. Yes. I can watch what you do with that, and I can tell you what you're passionate about.
That's right.
But I can also...
I think, I know what you're about to say. The reciprocal of that.
Yeah, I can also tell you what you're passionate about by your... Boy, I'm screwing that up, I think, in my own mind.
But pursuit.
Again, your pursuit reveals your passions, but your passions are many times, they are fueled by your pursuits.
Exactly.
Again, you put time and energy into something like sports. I'm an outdoorsman.
Yeah.
Like if I'm going to put time and energy, I mean, before I go fishing, I'm going to spend some time, make sure my rigs are ready and all that. You're going to spend, because you're passionate about catching the big fish, right? That's the dream. So with that, again, you can say that you fueled your passions. You fed your passions. And
the whole trip, the whole time you're getting ready and you're preparing, you're getting more excited about the trip, about the fishing trip, right?
Sure.
So what I'm doing as I'm pursuing that is increasing the passion of the whole fishing trip. I got it?
Sure you do.
I'm not passionate about fishing, but I think I'm catching
on
here.
And what a reward it is when you put some energy
the big fish in, right?
And effort. what a reward it is when you put some energy and effort into your intimate life, your romantic life.
I mean, again, when you get, and we encourage couples, to keep the romance alive by, texting through the day, touches, affection, conversations. And when you continue to do that, it builds an excitement for an intimate time together.
Yeah. Even sex.
Yeah,
I like that. And again, I like that thought. I mean, I'm just thinking the reward of you maybe setting a night together. We call it date nights, and we set a night together.
To it.
And you
or
thinking,
a trip, a Marriage Matters getaway. We just completed one of those a couple of weeks ago. So, the planning, period. Yeah. The getting ready to go off, what am I going to wear? Where are we going to go out to eat while we're gone? All that excitement, that pursuit just ignites that passion.
Yeah, and it does. It feeds that. It feeds that passion. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've talked about it. We've spent time.
We've invested money.
Yeah, and when you finally get to your getaway, how rewarding that is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're able to spend time together intimately. You're not interrupted. Mm-hmm. All of that stuff, even sexually. If you're preparing right, the way we feel like Song of Solomon. There's fuel. Yeah, there's fuel. Let's go away. Let's get away. Let's come to the countryside with me. Yeah. I mean, they're nurturing that place, and again, you can say when they arrive at their destination,
the excitement begins,
and the passion is evident, right?
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, again, if we're intentional, it's not a takeaway,
right?
It's not like, man, I wish we had.
I had to be intent. I mean, we had to.
Wish it just happened like it used to. But I would say
we had to go on a getaway. We had to spend the money. We had to.
But I would say that if you measured the effort when you think your passions were really at their height, I would say that those efforts were probably much greater than they are now. If you're out there saying, we used to have such spontaneity. I would say that spontaneity was fed by all the effort and the intention that was put into it.
I believe
the shopping for a new dress or new underwear. I don't know. I think about, kind of that way with couples, you think about it. But again, all of that effort and that intentionality that I'm going to prepare myself. I'm going
to be ready.
I'm going to be ready. I'm going to cherish her. I'm gonna romance her. I'm gonna.
And one thing I think we fail to realize a lot of times is, honestly, everything in our lives, our job, just the rush, the hustle, the making sure we're making the money, we're raising the kids, we're allowing them to be a part of all the extracurriculars. All those things in our life really work against us because they drain our energy, they drain our time, and many times they drain our budget. And so we're so spent. And I'm not just talking about spent financially. I'm talking about just spent, period, exhausted. And we know, and we teach this, one of the greatest adversaries you have to your intimate relationship is just exhaustion. I mean, couples are just too tired to even interact, to have conversation, to put any effort in at all. And if you understand, really everything is working against you.
Yeah.
And so you have to be very careful, as we've already said, to make sure in your schedule, in your life, in your day-to-day, that you are making time for this pursuit.
Yeah.
Which is so important. I mean,
this is intentional, though. You're talking about, the fact that people are tired. They're tired. They find themselves, they're just kind of spent. But how intentional would it be for a husband to come home and say, "Hon, I know children have been heavy today. That you've been taking care of them. Why don't I take the kids for a while and you take a nap?"
Wow.
Wouldn't that be an intentional effort, though, that
Absolutely.
is actually giving you room?
At the moment that doesn't appear to have anything to do with intimacy or the physical act of sex or anything, but it is.
It does.
Because it's making room for time for her to recoup.
But again, it's been very intentional.
Yeah.
About nurturing the other. I think that again, we don't give enough time and energy into what is our life, what it should be.
Yeah.
I've often said, people act like, after years, you're supposed to not be such romantics. You're not supposed to be that vibrant when it comes to your sexuality. And the reality is most of that is just an indicator to me that that couple's probably not putting a lot of effort or energy or resources into their romantic relationship. If they're not in love anymore, if they're not passionate about each other anymore, then more than likely it's a sure indicator that you've not fed that, you've not fueled
that part of your life. It hasn't been fed. It hasn't been prioritized. There's been no time, energy taken there to make sure that relationship is nurtured.
Yeah. A big place of intentionality, I think, too, the greatest sex organ in our lives is our brain. Mm-hmm. And again, I think that you got to be very intentional in your thought life.
Oh, for sure.
I think you have to guard that from the standpoint
Absolutely.
of not allowing you to move in directions, especially men, women too, but especially men, move in directions away from your wife or away from your husband, but being intentional about your thought life. I tell Gina, my wife, I tell her every so often, I've been thinking about you, and I think all kinds of things, but I think about her intimately. I think about places for us that in life. So again, I'm intentional about my thought life. I'm not thinking of everything else out there. Mm-hmm. Not setting my mind on everybody else. It's the old thing of starving your eyes. In the book Every Man's Battle, it's that old principle. You starve your thoughts too. You starve your thoughts of other appetites or desires, and you set your desire on your wife, and think
that's
about
women
that.
As well. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and keeping it clean, keeping it clear,
clear, and even in the way you think about your spouse. Maybe it's not that you are caught away with thinking about others, but sometimes we just think about our spouse the wrong way. If something negative happened or negative words, then if we allow that just to rotate around in our brain all day long instead of, thinking on the good things, thinking on the virtues.
It can fester.
Absolutely. Word? It will fester. That's a great word.
It'll become infected.
That's true.
And in that, there's some intentionality. Again, this thing's God ordained. We always try to stress that.
Absolutely.
We have somehow life. in the world that we live, that somehow the church, Christians, have allowed the world to be take the lead when it comes to our intimate, sexual, romantic life, when the reality is it's very plain that God ordained this relationship for marriage and only for marriage. And when we nurture that, it's a wonderful thing.
And to be enjoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just for procreation, yes, to be fruitful and multiply, but for enjoyment as well. Let us throw out a few passages. Proverbs 5:19. Rejoice in the wife of your youth.
Yeah.
Have a good time. Enjoy one another.
Rejoice.
Over and over.
Rejoice.
And over again.
So, again, it's very plain.
Yeah, and we could read the Song of Solomon. Eric referred to it earlier in our time today, but many passages in there over and over where the pursuit is so obvious and evident in everything they're doing. The encouraging words, the affirmation, the language that they use to talk to one another. Yep. They're talking definitely to their spouse. The language they're using is not just to whoever, right? That's intimate couple. That's married couple talk. They're talking.
And again, it's a fact that we're giving ourselves to each other. Mm-hmm. Ephesians 5, principled there. Marriage is principled that we give ourselves. 1 Corinthians 7, again, if you want to read that sometime, I'd encourage you, I'd challenge you to go read 1 Corinthians 7 and realize the great responsibility you have toward your spouse.
That's true.
And again, I think it's something we dismiss. I think in ministry, I said a lot, people put spouse, they put family, spouse behind ministry, where it's very plain there that marriage and family have a place,
even the intimate relationship,
a precedent over what we call ministry.
Yeah, but husband and wife. So, it's good.
But again,
Genesis, we can always go back there. God said it's not good for Adam to be alone. The couple was put together there, and then it's very clear that they knew one another. They were in an intimate relationship from the very beginning, right?
Made him a helper suitable that fit him. Every way. Physically.
Even intimately.
Anatomically. They fit together. So again, with that, it's great news. God ordained it. He perfected it. And again, we always say do it God's way. And again, that even includes, hey, take the initiative. Can we encourage you to do that?
Check your pursuit and realize the pursuit, the passion, what we talked about today, the time, the energy, the effort, the attention, fuel
that passion for your spouse.
I love it.
Don't do things that take away from it, because again, your marriage, so important that
it matters. Your marriage matters. Your home matters,
your
right?
Home always matters. Glad
Let me throw this in there. Your parenting matters. We're sponsoring a Parenting Matters event at Beach Springs Church, May the 29th and 30th. So, man, write that down. There'll be more info to come.
Yep. Hey, God bless you. Thanks for joining us. Share with somebody. Your home matters.